Welcome to A Second Look. I'm Kevin Wilson, Ohio District President. This is my weekly devotion for our congregations based on the scripture passages from this past weekend. Our devotion this week is entitled, Hearing the Good Shepherd Today. It comes from a section of the Gospel reading, John chapter 10, verses 1 through 5. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the gatekeeper opens. The sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. A stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. Jesus is referring to himself in this passage. He is our good shepherd. But how do we know we're hearing his voice today? How do we know when we hear instruction in our relationship with God that it's coming from Jesus? How do we know when we receive moral instruction that it's actually Jesus teaching? How do we know when we hear about the end times that we're actually hearing what Jesus taught about his return? Now, the way to know is to go back to the scriptures. Jesus revealed himself through the word. Yes, reading the Gospels is the best way to understand Jesus, to know that we're hearing his voice. And we hear some teaching. Does it resonate? Is it consistent with the line with those Gospels? But we don't stop there. And the Old Testament tells us about Jesus, about the Messiah. Jesus is in the Old Testament. Jesus is prophesied about in the Old Testament. And go on through the rest of the New Testament. What a blessing to have the epistles where Jesus' teaching is repeated, expanded upon, clarified, applied to our lives. It's through the word that we can gain confidence that we're hearing the Good Shepherd today. Until next week, the Lord bless and guide.